Right. Good evening. Today's the day we finally catch up after about 10 days of being behind. We are on the bottom line of Kuf Chaf Hey Amud Aleph. We had made reference yesterday to a story about a Savta, and today we're going to learn about what that story was with this grandmother. It's actually, in this case, even a great grandmother. The Gemara says, My Savta. What was the case of Savta that was referenced yesterday? Dehahu de Amar Lahu. There was a man who was on his deathbed, and he said to everyone around him, to the top of Kuf Chaf Hey Amud Beis, the man, let's say his name was Chaim. The man was on his deathbed. He said, I would like all of my property to go to my grandmother. Basra liyarsai. And after her, namely if and when she dies, then the next stage of Yerusha will be to my children, Chaim says. So let's just get the names right. Chaim has a grandmother named Savta. Savta's grandson, Chaim. Chaim has a daughter who got married, as we'll see in a moment. As Hav Yalei Birata to have an Asiva. Chaim had a daughter who was married. So this is the granddaughter of Savta. So we have Savta, Chaim, and his daughter. And Shchiva, the daughter, the great granddaughter, Shchiva b'chai ba'il b'chai Savta, she died. The youngest one of this whole discussion died in the life of her husband and in the life of her great grandmother. And Basra de Shchiva Savta, then the grandmother died. Now who's left? Asa Baal and Katava. So the great granddaughter's husband's like, does that mean I'm next in line for the Yerusha? Let's review the case because it's confusing. There's a 90-year-old Savta. There is a 50-year-old grandson. There is a 25-year-old daughter. The daughter gets married to some guy. The daughter and the Savta die and the father dies. The only one left in this chain is the husband of the great granddaughter. So he says, I'm next. The money should come to me. So this is a machlokas amoraim as to whether or not he gets the money. Let's remember what the Shchiv Meirah said. The 50-year-old man, Chaim, he said, I want my property to go to my grandmother, and then if she dies, it will go to my daughter. It says the Gemara, 4 lines down, Amar Rav Huna, liyarsi, ve'afilu liyarsi yarsi. He said, it goes to my daughter, those who will inherit me, and even to those who will inherit my children, which is including the husband. So according to Rav Huna, the great granddaughter's husband, who's the only one alive, gets the Yerusha from his wife's family. Rav Anan, what? Fine. But as we'll soon see, the other opinion, which is that of Rav Anan, says the husband doesn't get it. It goes up to the uncles. It goes back into the pecking order that we saw earlier in this Masechta in the early parts of Yesh Nochlin. Rav Anan Amar, no, liyarsi, it goes only to the daughter, to the woman who died, but lo liyarsi yarsi, but not to those who will inherit the daughter. So this is the machlokes amoraim. Does the one person who's not blood related, the husband of the great granddaughter, the great granddaughter died, the father died, and the Savta died. He's the only one left. Does he get it back? Does the great grandson through marriage get it? Yes or no? So this is a machlokas amoraim. Shalchu mitam. From Eretz Yisrael, when they were discussing this topic, they said, Hilchasa kavase de Rav Anan, but v'lav mitayim. We agree, halacha l'maisa, says the Gemara. This is how the Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael paskened at that time. We agree, Ladina, that the halacha is like Rav Anan, that the great grandson through marriage does not get this Yerusha. It goes back into the pecking order of other family members, brothers of the father, brothers of the great grandfather, of the grandfather of V'chule. Now, what does it mean that he's got the halacha right, but his reasoning is wrong? So the Gemara details out what is going on here. We agree that the husband of the great-granddaughter will not be Yoresh in this case. Even though, as Tex pointed out, there seemingly is no one else alive, the money still doesn't go to him. It has to be part of a pecking order. But V'lav mitaime. But Rav Anan's rationale was wrong. Te'ilu Rav Anan savar, afal gav dehavale bira livrate. Even if the great-granddaughter had a child, he would have said, lo yaris. Rav Anan would have said categorically it stops at the daughter, and even to the daughter's child, that money would not go. But Velohi, that's not true, say the Rabbanon in Eretz Yisrael. De'ilu havale bara levrate. If the great-granddaughter had a son, and everybody else died, and the husband of the great-granddaughter was alive still, Vada Yoris, the son of the great-granddaughter would have been Yorish. Ubal, Hainu Taima de lo Yoris. The reason why the husband of the great-granddaughter would not be Yoresh is Mishum, like we've learned already, Dahavale Ra'ui, because it all came about indirectly. It came about as a theoretical after his wife died, and therefore Ve'ein Abal Notel B'Roi Kibamuchsak. The husband is not allowed to inherit his wife when the money that is coming is not directly from her, but it's only theoretically through her. That's a Roi Kibamuchsak. So that's why Rav Anan is right in his psak, though his rationale is incorrect. Now, there's an inference that the Gemara points out, and it's an excellent question, which is Michlal, that the first opinion, who says that the husband does get it, that was Rav Huna on line 4, the Rav Huna who says that the great-granddaughter's husband does get this Yerusha, that implies, Michlal de Rav Huna Savar, that Baal Notel Kiroi Beroi Kibamuchsak. It seems that he argues with an established halacha that a husband is not allowed to get theoretical posthumous dollars. He's only allowed to get money that is a direct Yerusha from the person who is being Yoresh to him. So that's a kasha against Rav Huna. And we can't really say that the husband is allowed to take money beroi kibamuchzak. That's not true. So therefore, the Gemara responds as follows. We're 2/3 of the way down on Kufchav Hamid Beis. Amar Reb Elazar, davar zen niftach bigdolim v'nistayim biktanim. This conversation started with the greats, but it's ending with the little people. Who are the greats and who are the little people? Take a look at the second of the super wide lines of the Rashbam. Just imagine if Tech said this a minute ago. Like, could you imagine if we learned this with the Rashbam, how long shiur would take? Even in any Masechta, that would be true, but it's especially true here. So says the Rashbam at the end of the second of the wide lines, Dibur Maskal Bigdolim Rav Huna, Biktanim Rabbi Elazar, Ba'atzmo Kari Katan Legabe Rav Huna. He was being deferential. It doesn't seem from the language of the Rashbam that he was being deferential unnecessarily. It seems that Rav Huna was greater than he was. So let's just read this line again. How can it be that Rav Huna says that the great-granddaughter's husband is Yoresh? After all, then it seems like he's saying he's being Yoresh Roi Kibamuchzak. Says the Gemara, Davar zen niftach bigdolim. Rav Huna started this conversation, but I'm going to have to finish it. Kol omer acharecha ke'omer me'ach shav dami. The way that Chaim, the person who was to pass away, the way that he structured this Yerusha actually made it that it wasn't a Yerusha. When he said, I want Safta to get this Yerusha, but then I wanted to go to my daughter, no, that's not the pecking order. And because he did it in this circuitous way, it is not a Yerusha, it is a matana. So no, we are not talking about Roi Kibamuchzak in regards to Yerusha. Rav Huna holds that the case of the Safta, where Chaim, the Shchiv Meira, said, I want my Yerusha to go to my grandmother and then to my daughter, no, now it's not a Yerusha anymore. Now it's a matana. That's what the Rishonim write over here. So it says the Gemara, Omar Rabba, Mistabra Tame de Bnei Ma'arava. We understand the Svara, the rationale that we learned from the Bnei Yerushalayim, as we saw earlier on the page, 6 lines down of Shalchu Mitam, and that it's only a concern of Roi Kibamuchzak. The Ikadim, Safta, Bezavna, if the Safta would have gone and sold it, then Zvina, then that would have been a perfectly valid sale. So not everybody agrees with Rav Huna, but it certainly seems like Rav Anan is correct with the Svara of the Bnei Eretz Yisrael. Now let's just drop a couple of gavels over here and just paskin some shilas. Amar Rav Papa, Hilchasa, Ein habal notel beroi kibamuchzak. Halacha number 1, a husband, when he is being Yoresh his wife, is not allowed to take as part of his Yerusha anything that comes into her bank account posthumously. He's only allowed to take that which is present when she dies. Number 2, ve'ein ha-bechor notel beroi kibamuchzak. A bechor as well, the oldest child, is not allowed to take money that is earned posthumously, only that which is in the bank account when the death occurs. Ve'ein ha-bechor notel pishnayim b'milveh. And as well, a bechor is not allowed to take pishnayim from money that comes in from a loan. Bein shegavu karka, whether or not it's karka, bein shegavu ma'os, or whether or not we're talking about money. And for the 5th psak in a row, umilveh she'imo palge. And if he himself, the bechor, had a loan with his father, that money is split, no pishnayim. This is what it felt like today. I had a meeting at Rabbi First's house for something for NCSY for the OU. Me and Rabbi Greenland were there. We're meeting with Rabbi First. I thought our meeting was at 11 o'clock. So I got there at 10:50 and our meeting was not at 11. It was at 11:30. So for like 15 minutes, I listened to Rabbi first. This is what it is like. The halacha is X. The halacha is Y. This person's not yashar. This person is a nida. This person, the ksuba needs to be rewritten. This person, not. From Daled Chelke Shulchan Aruch within 15 minutes. Just this is what Rav Shlomo Zalman says. Oh, it was unbelievable. I know it's true in my head, but when you stand there and watch it happen, it was like, he's not Rav Papa, but it was amazing to see this erudition and this mastery over halacha, just everything at his fingertips. It was incredible.
Different phone calls and all.
Yeah, it was pounding phone call after phone call after phone, endless ringing, voicemails, returning phone calls, psukim written on little notes, Badika clause taped to the door, endless. While I was there, 3 people dropped off envelopes. It's endless, and again, I know it in my head up here, but like when you see it be'einayim, it was incredible to watch. It was incredible. It's amazing. Okay, top of Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph. Let's continue with some of these halachos of a bechor. This is actually today's daf. We're going to go until the very last word in Yirtzeh Hashem on the bottom of Kuf Chavav Amud Beis. So we got some work to do. The Gemara says, Umal v'shemapagi that we saw. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Asi, bechor shemicha micha. If there is a bechor who wants to protest, he is allowed to protest. This is talking about a case where the pashut, where the other brother, the non-bechor brother, wanted to invest or grow or enhance that which was part of the Yerusha. The bechor can say to the pashut, no, I'm taking my pishnayim before you invest. So you could imagine this kind of conversation happening between brothers, between a bechor and a pashut. The pashut says, I'm a really good businessman. Let me take the Yerusha from Abba and let me invest it. I promise you 10%. He can be mocha and say, I'm not interested in your investments. I want my pishnayim. Before you want to invest your 1/3, don't care. Don't touch my money. And he has every right to say that. So says the Gemara. And this is a very important halacha, and it's quoted in Shulchan Aruch. Amar Rabba.
Like, what's the hava? Didn't we see a Gemara once said they're like the kuchin when it comes to
the Havamina is whether or not, and we're going to see this today explicitly, whether or not the Bechor has rights to Pishnayim right at the death point or only at the Shas Chalukah. So if the Shas Chalukah, he doesn't yet have a say, so then everyone splits and then he can choose, but he won't be able to be Mocha. So we have to see a little bit later on. But yes, we did see something like that there is an aspect of them that are Lekuchen. When does that moment kick in? Is it immediate? Is it later? Is it after the Chalukah, before? So this is a sugya that requires, I'm saying this is a sugya of the timing when a Bechor really gets his rights to Pishnayim, which is really what we're discussing. And on a similar note, Amar Rabba Mistaber Tameh de Rabasi, who said that you're allowed to be moche, that the Bechor is allowed to protest to the Pashut and say to the Pashut, you're not allowed to go investing my money, give me my Pishnayim. He said it's mistaber to say this in regards to the following cases: ba'anavim uvitzarum, when there are grapes and they've been gathered; zeisim umaskum, and you've had olives and they've been gathered; aval darchum, but once they've been completely crushed, lo. If he walks into the room and the pashut has already taken all of the grapes and crushed them, he cannot say pishnayim anymore. Rav Yosef Omer afilu darchum. Rav Yosef says I disagree. Rav Yosef says that no, the Bechor is still allowed to have a taina about Pishnayim in a case, even if the grapes have been crushed already. Darcham, how can you say Meikar in vehashtachamra? It's not the same thing anymore. It's not the same thing. You want to claim Pishnayim, that's adorable, but it's grape juice now. So you can't, he gave us grapes, he gave us a vineyard. So says the Gemara, you owe him 2/3 of the grapes. Let's just say there's one Bechor and one Pasha. So that means if there's 2 people, a Bechor and a Pashut, he gets 2x, and the Bechor gets 2x and the Pashut gets x. You ruin my Pishnayim. You have to pay me back. That's not right. And the Gemara says, Hecha itmar de Rav Ukva bar Chama. Sorry, I skipped a line. So says the Gemara, K'da'amar Rab Ukva Bar Chama litin lo dmei hezek va'anavav, halchanami no sen lo dmei hezek anavav. Right? So we know that in one case scenario, Rab Ukva Bar Chama had paskin this way. We would apply that over here as well. Heisha idmar de Rab Ukva Bar Chama. What was the case where Rab Ukva Bar Chama had paskin this way? That after an item was already crushed, the pashut had to pay the bechor for his pishnayim. Says the Gemara, aha, on the following case scenario. The Amar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Bechor upashut sheiniach lenavin anavim uvitzarum zesim umasku. A father left over as a Yerusha grapes that were ready to be harvested, olives that were ready to be pressed. Bechor notel pishnayim afilu darchum. What do you mean darchum? Meikor en vehashtachama. Amar maruk v'barchama litem lot mehezekanav. So what that means is as follows: if we're pasting these pieces together, which is really our job. Halacha l'maisa. Again, I say halacha l'maisa, not in halacha l'maisa way. It seems from the Gemara that a bechor is allowed to protest a pashut. He can protest his younger brother and say, "I want my pishnayim before you do anything with our Yerusha." He has every right to say that. And if in fact it's true that the pashut already processed the Yerusha into something else, the pashut has to pay him back. That means even at a loss. Let's say that the brother invested $1 million, which should have been divided $666,000 to 333. He invested the million, and now the net value is lower. Too bad. You need to pay him $666,000. At the two dots in the middle of Kuf Chav Vav Amud Aleph, Amar Ravasi, Bechor shenotal chelek kepashut viter. Yikes. A bechor who, when he and his brother were standing there with all of the coins from the father's Yerusha, they took equal amounts, not 2x to x, not 2/3, 1/3, but the bechor simply took 50-50. So we don't know his mindset yet, but the halacha is that he's viter. Asks the Gemara, my viter. What did he give up on? Does the bechor lose his pishnayim because he took 50-50 in this first exposure? This is a machlokes between Rav Papa and Rav Papi, so that things aren't confusing. Rav Papa Mishmei de Rava Amar Viter Ba'osa Sadeh. It's only in that one item, in this case, a field that they were looking at. So let's say they see in the Yerusha a list of 10 things. The first thing on the field was a Sadeh. They go to Sadeh number 1 and they draw a line in the middle 50-50. So here, according to Rav Papa, that means that the Bechor has given up his Pishnayim rights on this field. But on the rest of the components of the Yerusha, he maintains the Pishnayim rights. However, Rav Papi Mishmei de Rava Amar Viter Bechol Nechasim Kulan. Wow, you could have a $1 billion Yerusha, and really you deserve a ton of money, $666 million. If you accidentally, in the first opportunity, only take 50-50 on the first field, you just lost a ton of money because now it's only 50-50. It seems like your first right of refusal of Pishnayim is a big deal. And the second you're mevater on it once, according to Rav Papi, you lose everything. You lose your pishnayim. Now you're you're treated like a pasha. So the Gemara gives the rationale for each of these shitas. Rav Papa mishmei de Rava Amar Viter Ba'osa Sada. No, you only lose out on the first line item where you're no longer at pishnayim on Sada number 1, but you might on future items. What's his svara? Kasavar. And David, this is what we were talking about before. Ein lo levechor kodem chaluka. He says the Bechor has no pre-gaming rights at all. Only when the Chalukah happens does anything matter. And now he messed up. Now that he did his Chalukah, he did it like a Pashut. So at the moment that he did that Chalukah, we look at him and say, what kind of person are you? And he's like, shoot, I made a mistake.
Not very bright.
Not a very bright one. But idach lo achil, whatever, and here Rav Papa is more limited, whatever's in the guy's hand is achil, that is going to be made into a lower level, that's 50-50. But idach, all the other things that the Bechor did not yet touch, well, the determination hasn't been made yet. Meaning, what Rav Papa is saying is that the Bechor only becomes a Bechor when he starts to take his portions. And therefore, he took Sada number 1, 50-50. Okay, now there's no backsies anymore. This one's 50-50. When he goes to Sada number 2, he takes 2/3, 1/3. Okay, no problem. That's the Chakira. And after the parentheses, which we don't normally read, but in this case we do, because that seems to be the understanding of the Meforshim here. Why does Rav Papi say that the Bechor loses all of his rights to future Pishnayim when he made a mistake in the first field. His first decision carries the weight of the entire Pishnayim Chalukah. This machlokas that we just saw, that if a Yoresh makes a mistake, the Bechor makes a mistake, and the first of many properties where he does 50-50, the machlokas where Rav Papa says only that property is affected and is 50-50, but everything else is 2/3. And Rav Papi argues and says, no, everything is now 50-50. That was inferred from another case. There was a Bechor who went and sold what he should not have sold. He sold his property and the property of the Pashut. So he took the whole lot and sold it to someone. Azul Yasme b'nei Pashut lemechal tamre mehanhu lekuchos. The Yisomim of the Pashut, they needed food. So what they did is they went to the buyer. So the Bechor sold it to a Lokeach. They went to the buyer and they literally started plucking dates off the trees. Borei priya eitz, thank you very much. And they started eating. And says the Gemara, Machunhu, the owners of the date tree came out there with sticks. They started beating the Yisomim. It's not very nice, but that's what they did. Amrei Lahu, everybody, Amrei Lahu Krovim. The relatives of the kids went over to the owners of this field and said, Lo mistaya, isn't it enough that you bought a field that you shouldn't have even bought? It wasn't appropriate what you did. So Asul Kame de Rava. They went in front of Rava and they said, what should we do? The Bechor sold the whole lot. He sold the 2/3 portion of the Bechor and the 1/3 portion of the Pashut. He sold it. The children of the Pashut have nothing to eat. So says the Gemara, Amar Lahu, and this is very cryptic, and we're going to look at a Rashbam before we turn the page. Amar Lahu, Lo asa velo klum. What does Lo asa velo klum mean? So the Rashbam says, the very last entry on the page, Lo asa bechor velo klum b'mechira zu. The Bechor had no right to sell it, and his sale was seemingly invalid. And as we turn to the top of Kuf Chavav Beis, the Gemara wants to know what that means. Mar Sabar, that Lo Asa Klum means Bipalga, that in regards to the portion that belongs to the Pashut, that was not a sale, but in regards to the portion that belonged to the Bechor, that was a sale. Umar Sabar Bekulhu, that no, Bechor is not allowed to sell it at all. And this goes back to the fundamental machlokes of whether or not we say that a Bechor has a chelek in the Yerusha from the very beginning or only after the transactions happen. Shalchu mitam, how was this learned up in Eretz Yisrael? Bechor shemachar kodem chaluka lo asa klum. If a Bechor makes a sale before the 2/3, 1/3 split lo asa klum, alma ein lo lebechor kodem chaluka. The Bechor has no rights until the Chalukah actually takes place. A Bechor walks over to a bag of gold coins from a Yerusha. He looks at it. No, you're not a Bechor yet. Your Pishnayim doesn't kick in. You take 2 coins, the Pasha takes 1. Okay, now you have some bilos. You made a sale on that item, on that bag of coins, prior to the Pasha showing up. That's not sellable. It's not. You're not begeder the Bechor Pishnayim yet. You have to be at the Shas Chalukah. So that's how it seems to be the conclusion in Eretz Yisrael. But that seems to also not be the psak, because on the 4th line of this page, V'hilchasa, yesh the Bechor kodem Chalukah. It seems to be, and the Gemara doesn't explain its rationale for flipping over here, but this is how it's quoted in Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat Reishai and Ches, that when it comes to a Bechor, yesh the Bechor kodem Chalukah. That a Bechor does have some rights, even if the Pashat's not in the room, the Bechor does have some rights to take some of the gold coins from his Yerusha. Mar Zutra Midarishba, from this particular city, Palag Betsana de Pilpale Bahade Achin B'Shaveh. He split a basket of peppers evenly with his brothers. Namely, he was a Bechor, but he didn't take Pishnayim. Asa lekame de Ravashi. And what did Ravashi paskin? Amar le hol vitarta b'miktas vitarta b'chol anachasam kulan. Yikes! It seems that we hold like Rav Papi. Rav Papi was of the opinion that if the Bechor foregoes his Pishnayim with the first element of the Yerusha, that he foregoes the Pishnayim for all elements of the Yerusha. That brings us to the end of that Mishnah. We'll be starting a new Mishnah all the way to the bottom of the page with some fascinating pieces of Gemara Starting with a new Mishnah, 8-9 lines down, Masnisin, the Mishnah writes, Omer, a man says as follows, Ish ploni beni bechor lo yitol pishnayim. A man tries to break halacha. A man says, my son, who is a bechor, who is my bechor, he should not get pishnayim. Or a person says, Ish ploni beni bechor, or I know that this person is a bechor, that's also not going to work. Says the Gemara, another Ish ploni beni, sorry, I skipped a case. Let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. Case number one, a man says, my son who is a bechor, I don't want him to have pishnayim. Or ish ploni beni lo yirashi mecha. Or this ish ploni, this man, beni, my son, will not be yoresh with his brothers. Lo amar klum. These two cases are flatline in halacha, 0. Why? Shehisna mashakasu batorah. I hereby make a commitment, I'm not going to put on tefillin tomorrow. Sorry, that's neder is not chal. You're trying to make a condition in halacha that's connected to psukim and chumash. So we know that b'nasan lo, we have a pasuk that says that a bechor gets pishnayim. Father wants to stop him. Too bad. You don't get to argue with chumash. However, hamachalik nechasav al piv, and here there's a little bit of coding over here that we don't necessarily know. Here, what we're talking about is really giving a matana. Riba le'echad u'mi'et le'echad. If he wants to give more to one and less to the other, v'hishve lehen ha'bechor, and he made the bechor equal in the giving out of these gifts. This is not a Yerusha, these are gifts. Dvar of kayamim. No problem. You know, my kids ask me all the time, okay, but like seriously, which one of us is your favorite child? Like, but seriously, like I know you say that you love us. I'm like, some of you are way more difficult than other ones, but I do love you the same. I care about you the same. I spend a lot of money on all of you. You're very expensive, but some of you are harder than others and some of you are easier. Like, okay, well, which one do you love more? So here we see that the father was echad rav, riba le'echad of mi'eh le'echad. In this case, the father Taka did that. By the way, we saw when Yaakov gave out brachos to the kids, it was not even Stephen for all of the shvatim. Everyone got what they needed, and that's good parenting. Yeah, and that we overcoddle our children. Good parenting is saying what needs to be said to the right kid at the right time, even if it doesn't feel fair. So that's what this father did. And halacha l'maisa, because it's not Yerusha territory and it's Matana territory, do whatever you want with the Matana. When it comes to a Yerusha, you're not allowed to do that. That's why the next part of the Mishnah is crucial. The Imamar Mishum Yerusha, if you say that this allocation of Riba le'echad or Mi'eh le'echad, but it's a Yerusha, no, then the Torah gave a formula for that. You're not allowed to do that because you're being masna mashakasu b'Torah and lo amar klum. And even if it was kasa bein b'tchil bein be'emsa bein b'sof mishum matana, if anywhere in the document you wrote that it's because of matana, so that functions as an override in Dvar of Kayam, and then we're not concerned about the rules of Yerusha anymore. Just saying that it's a matana solves all of those problems. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who the conversation was between fully, in regards to how modern day wills work. And this is a loophole, is to say it's not a Yerusha, it's a matana. And well, yeah, because the father's talking in this case, right? So the father is saying what he wants to happen with his Yerusha. Then he dies penniless.
Once the visa is done, it can't be called matana.
Let's say a person suddenly dies, right? So he had no time to organize his affairs. So then it's pishnayim. We learned already a child can reject it. If a child knows that his father has a lot of chovos, he can reject it because he knows that if he gets pishnayim on the reward side, he also has to pay pishnayim on the chov side. So a child can say, I know my father is drowning in bills. I'd rather not get pishnayim. Remember that pishnayim is 66% and 50-50 is, it's 16% less. Depends how much money you're talking about, but it comes at a cost.
Assuming you're talking.
3, right, yeah, correct. Which is uncommon, but someone's got to pay for it. Meaning their properties, especially karka, because karka has a lien on it. So even if karka is bequeathed to a child, a Baal Chov can go to that child and say, I'm sorry you lost your father, but your father owes me money. And they can then rightfully take from the karka, as we've seen in Shas many times. That's not true by metaltalin. It's not true by movable product. It's only true by karka and anything else that has a lien on it. So today we have this legal jargon by our houses. You know, like the IRS can place a lien on your house because you signed. They technically own the house until you pay for it. They're letting you live there. You're an owner on paper, but it's a chavrusa. You know, it's your down payment plus whatever payments you've made. but they can foreclose on you in a heartbeat. What? Yeah. So that's what would happen over here too. That's when we talk about karka having it's taltalin sheyesh behen achrais, which is karka. That's our houses of today. And then someone can come to me and say, we solved that problem legally by having tenants by the entirety, where me and my wife own each morsel of the house. So a Baal Chov of mine cannot go to my wife and say the house is mine, because it's not. We are right. We're both signatories on the house. We both own it. What?
You both took out mortgage.
Yeah.
But if he bought it, he took a business loan,
Right.
she didn't sign on it, so then it's,
So one of the ways I protect myself in my business is that the house is tenants by the entirety, is that we both own the home. So God, let's not. If ever there's a lawsuit, I have liability insurance. If it goes beyond the liability insurance, so then they can't touch my house. You can take my shoes, you can take my clothes. No one's going to wear them at that point. So you can take whatever you want. What?
Nobody can fit into your clothes.
We'll send them to Africa, okay? We'll
Skinny,
you can send it to all the people who are on those.
I was talking to someone who told me that their child who's 6'6" wears a 30-36 pair of pants. Yeah. I wear like a 30-32. This kid, 30-36 custom
I can't
pants.
say I've ever seen that in the store, right?
Well, you see them like these lanky people. They're just like super skinny and super tall. He weighs what I weigh, and he's like 6'6". It's custom. It was actually from a brand name. It was Lululemon pants, but I don't know how they must have, whatever that. There are tall people in the world, so it's not. Okay, let's talk about important things. My clothing going to Africa was not one of them. The Gemara opens 2/3 of the way down. Okay, we just learned our Mishnah with all of the rules that we saw. Lema masnis and look Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah does not stem with the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda, if in fact our Mishnah was like Rabbi Yehuda, well, ha'amar b'davar shel mamon t'no kayam. He has a rule that if there is a t'nai made, even if it's in the face of Torah values, it still can be that the t'nai is kayam if the person's makabel. So let's see what happened. The Tanya, we have a brisa. One we saw a long time ago in Kiddushin and in Bava Metzia and in Ksubis, as you can see on the side there. Ha'omer le'isha. A man says to a woman, a man says to a woman, here's a ring. You are hereby married to me. He does this in front of Eidim. But it's on the condition that you will not hold against me she'er ksus ve'ona, food, clothing, and marital relations. Tanakama Reb Meir says, you're married. Your conditions are completely ridiculous. It's as if you didn't say them. And you're chayiv in all three things for your wife. Again, your masna mashakasu b'Torah. So the hared mikudeshesli sticks, but the tanaim dissolve. You're a fool. You're a ksil. That doesn't even make any sense. However, let's take a look at Rabbi Yehuda, and this is why our Mishnah does not work like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'davar shel mamon tano kayam. What did they say? She'er ksus ve'ona. She'er and ksus are monetary things, food and clothing. Ona is not monetary. That's physical intimacy, and that is a right. So Rabbi Yehuda bifurcates the list of three. He says, Sher and Ksus, they're mamon and Tno Kayam. So therefore our Mishnah is obviously not like Rabbi Yehuda. Because in our Mishnah, what did the father want to say to the kids? Kids, sorry, no pishnayim for the Bechor. Or I don't want you to be Yoresh with your brothers. Why did you say Masna Mashikasu B'Torah? It doesn't say like Rabbi Yehuda, that it depends. If it's financial, so then in fact the Tanai should be Kayam. So the Gemara says, this is a ridiculous comparison. Afilu tema Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah could even be like Rabbi Yehuda. Because after all, Hassam, in the case of the Isha, a man says to a woman, Harat mikudeshesli almanas she'ein lichalai, that you have no control over me, no tainas on me for sher ksus ve'ona. So she's like, for the financial stuff, I'm asking. But I'm asking. I don't care. I love you. It doesn't matter. And what you said about Ona's usher, so that's not chal. The monetary stuff, I'm a vater on. Ona, I'm not mavater on. So I could understand why she would be mochelas on the money. I get it. But hacha in our Mishnah, lo kamachil. In our Mishnah, the dad didn't say to the child, like the husband said to the wife, I'm going to marry you on the condition. He didn't say to the son, I'm going to give you a Yerusha on condition. No. He made a stipulation out of thin air without dialoguing with the person. When he says to the Isha, you're talking to her, and she doesn't have to accept the Kedushin. She has a say in the matter. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda makes sense that in that case, okay, with shiur and ksus, which are financial, no problem. But that's just not true in our Mishnah. So our Mishnah could even be Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Yosef, first words on the line, 3/4 of the way down. Amar.
But you have a situation where the father says to the kids, like, I'm dishonoring you, and the kid says, okay, fine.
Yeah, because we know a child can be mochel on his pishnayim. A child is allowed to say that. So if a child says, I want you, Mr. Bechor, my oldest child, to be an equal to the other children, he can say yes or no, because he can obviously choose to be a Bechor because he has the pasuk on his side, and he can choose to be mochel because there's mechila, where we allow for a Bechor to be mochel. It's not a chiyuv deraisa for him to take it, because it's not fair for it to be a chiyuv deraisa for the Bechor to take pishnayim, because it can come back to haunt him. If the father's chovos are huge, he can get killed financially. That's not fair. So therefore, yes, in theory, if a father would have said to a child, look, I know you're the oldest, I don't have a lot of money to go around, could you please be mevater on your pishnayim to do 50-50? Yeah. Again, I'm no posek, but from what it seems from the Gemara, that seems reasonable. Amar of Yosef, Amar, if a man says, Ish ploni b'ni bechorihu, this person is my oldest son, no tel pishnayim. He gets pishnayim just from that testimony alone. However, Ish ploni bechorhu, if I don't say he's my bechor, but I say he is a bechor, halacha lemaisa eino no tel pishnayim. Why? Dilma buchra de ima ka'amar. Ooh. Because maybe it's a mixed marriage, and maybe he's the bechor, the mother, it's her first child, but it's the man's second, third, fourth child. But we already know that we don't determine bechor status based on the mother. So with the testimony of b'ni bechor, if a man says that's my child, givaldik pishnayim. But if a man says that man over there is a bechor, not my bechor, we don't care. That's an irrelevant fact. And it would not motivate anyone to say that he gets pishnayim, because dilma buchra de imahu. So the Gemara then says, there was a man who approached Rabbi bar Chana. Omar le, muchzakani bazeh shehu bechor. He says, and he's saying about himself, that I am a bechor. Omar le, mina yadas, prove to me that you're a bechor. He gives the strangest answer. He says, he says, to have a kari le avua, his father used to call him buchra sichla, you fool oldest child. So whatever the turn of phrase would have been, my firstborn crazy, whatever the language is. So he says back to him, that's just not a raya. Dilma buchra de imahu. De kol buchra de ima nami buchra sichla karule. And if you're a bechor of any nature, we'll make fun of you. Doesn't matter. You're the guinea pig of the family. We're going to call you names. No problem. So lav dafka, that you are considered a bechor based on your testimony that you say that you're a bechor. You need to bring a raya. Story, first of the long lines. I know about me that I'm a bechor. This is kind of gross. For those of us who sterilize utensils for procedures, this one's kind of nasty. When I went over to the father, go over to my son who is the bechor and take his saliva because it is healing. They would use saliva as part of a salve to put in injuries. They would chew wheat and then use that resulting clod in order to whatever they were doing. It's gross. Says the Gemara v'dilma buchra de imahu. Perhaps this child is a bechor.
Somebody said something about a bechor spitting in your eye heals you. And like
Before Gemara.
10 years old.
Yeah. I didn't learn this when I was 10. I don't know what you were doing when you were 10, but I wasn't doing this. Says the Gemara, perhaps in this Maisa where
Rashbam says lie.
Yeah, absolutely right. So V'dilma buchra de imahu. It's a nice story. You're right. Maybe the bechor saliva does have special enzymes in it or special kedusha. I don't know what it is, but says the Gemara, no, it can't be that it's v'dilma buchra de imahu. Why not? Because Gemiri, we have a tradition. Buchra de abba masi roke. Only when the child is a bechor to his father does his saliva have any healing properties. But buchra de ima lo masi roke. Now we need to start doing some gender tests on saliva to see if they have different properties. The Gemara does say, maybe there is such a Masorah. I know we have a tradition that any of the medications from the times of the Gemara we don't try today. I think I've shared this in the past. The Gemaras in Gittin that we learned that were extremely detailed about medications. I know Rav Hershel Schachter said that if you skip these 2 pages of Gemara, you still finish Shas when you're done. It's a medicine book of old. Jumping into just connected sugyas about Pishnayim. This is fascinating. Amar Avami, a tumtum, a child who's born where the genitalia are not distinct. We don't know if the child is a boy or a girl. Shenikra, and then they tear open the skin, and only then v'nimtza zachar. So they saw that the baby was able to urinate. There was a urethra of some kind. The baby was able to urinate, so it wasn't dangerous in that way. But we needed to know what the child was. So they tore the skin open to see what was going on. V'nimtza zachar halacha l'maisa. He's not a bechor. Says the Gemara in a notel pishnayim. To Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "V'ayah ben abechor la'asiniyo, ad sheyehei ben mishas havaya." We need to know exactly what he is. We need to know exactly what he is when he is born. And an extended din, though this one outside of the realms of pishnayim. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar af eino nidon keben sore rumore. A child who's born as a tumtum is also not going to be penalized as a ben sorah rumor, even if he violates all the ben sorah rumor rules, tarte mar shel basar, biswani talki, whatever the rules are. To amar kraki yeli ish ben sorah rumor ad sheyehi ben mishas havaya. One story to close. I think I've shared this before about my colleague who had a granddaughter, and then like 2 hours later he sent out an email. The bris is going to be on Tuesday. Did I tell you this, Maisa? It's a good one. The baby was born. Couldn't see the aver at all because he was such a fat baby, and he had a hydrus, he had a whole bunch of things going on. And the way the anatomy presented, like Lefum Riata, looked like a girl. Only after they palpated, they didn't have to tear anything. Just when they were able to move all the skin around the right way, they saw the taka was a boy. That's not this. That's not this.
No.
That's a real case scenario of that baby might need some liposuction. That actually happens in severe cases. I've had that happen to one baby that I was involved with over the years. He gained so much weight so rapidly. They removed fat from the peripubic area and they stitched down the aver in such a way that it would protrude and not get stuck in the fascia. These are already echad mine elef. They're very echad mine alpaim, whatever the numbers are. Very rare. Okay, we'll stop right here. Mirza Hashem, we're caught up now, Baruch Hashem, and tomorrow we'll learn Daf Kuf Chav Zayin. Wishing you all a beautiful night.